Because I want you to realize your true value and worth and be beneficial to yourself and the community. You have a responsibility. So you just need to do this training for a certain amount of time, a few times a day or a few times a week, and that skill and strength transfers to the rest of your life. In just 1.5 minutes, you increase your potential for performance by 10%. A common myth people have is that in order to increase our focus, we have to نجهد حالنا أكتر. This is a myth. Your brain can actually have something that we call often in Tai Chi or Qigong, relaxed concentration, relaxed focus. You can focus higher and not demand more of your brain because you're wasting it. Do you remember like feeling like you think a lot about something and then suddenly after that thought or chapter you're like, "Oof, تعبت وأنا عم فكر بالموضوع بس." You literally put your brain to sleep and you tired it. So, does anyone know what brainwaves are? Brainwaves are like the voices that are always talking inside your brain. And they each have a different voice because they each represent a different frequency, a different character. You guys heard of beta? Beta is higher level processing function. Gamma is very high. And all the way at the bottom, can you guys guess what's the lowest frequency that we can probably measure? Delta. So delta is even lower than theta. But this machine that we have here is an EEG neurofeedback scanner, and it will measure your brain waves, but it doesn't measure for delta because most of the time that means you're just in deep sleep or something of that sort. When we say brain waves, we're talking about signals between the different cells in your brain. They're talking to each other, right? How do you know what you're doing all the time? Signals are being sent, thoughts are being transmitted, emotions are being processed, yes? So whenever there's a signal between one part of your brain and the other, that signal has a frequency. And the frequency tells you what kind of signal it is. If the frequency is very high, and so they're really quick all the time. But like ones that look like this are probably more base level function, right? So more related to the body and rest and things like that. So all the way at the top, gamma, beta, theta, delta, okay? And we're gonna see what your brainwaves look like when you're not doing anything. And then I'm gonna give you a moving meditation we call brainwave vibration whilst you're wearing this harness around your head. What I'm hoping to find is how your brainwaves respond to a rhythmic, cyclical function. When people move in a constant rhythm, they dissipate excess energy and emotion, and it actually raises their cognitive function and their concentration. You ever wonder why people unconsciously have a tic or fiddle with their finger or their feet while they're standing? They usually have unprocessed and excess energy, which could show up unconsciously as emotion, and their body wants to get rid of it. Who would like to get us going? Who would like to be our first volunteer? Charlie, yay! Let's clap for Charlie. All right, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna put Charlie through something. Okay, so this is just a diagnostic tool. It's not built for medical application. This is just an assessment tool to see where their condition is so I know what to do in terms of their training. So let's go ahead and see what's happening. At the bottom is some kind of interpretation of his brainwave function, where the blue line shows his concentration level and the red line shows his stress levels. At the top is the raw data. So each line represents a certain frequency of waves happening inside his brain. Go ahead, Charlie, sit at the edge of your seat, please. Charlie's gonna do brainwave vibration, just the head only, moving from side to side. And so he's going to shake his head side to side and breathe out. Palms to the sky so that your shoulders are relaxed. Perfect. What he's doing is he's not only moving cyclically, he's breathing out anything he feels in his body. So any tension, he feels it. Focus on that. Exhale. Right away. After. Before. After. So we're effectively changing the way his brain wave patterns are operating. And he's doing this all on his own. Relax. Thank you, Charlie.
In the middle of the exercise, definitely you notice that your thoughts shrinks, or at least your focus on your thoughts shrinks. After the exercise, you would feel as if really you're waking up and there's like a sort of calmness and presence.
So a lot of people say, oh, that experience is just placebo, it's in your head. But you can see a visual difference in his brainwave pattern. From a simple perspective, does this look asleep or does this look asleep? Sleeping brain, awake. A lot of us are walking around with dormant brains. We're not really activating the true energy of our brain. We're walking around in bodies that don't actually belong to us because we're not taking full ownership of them. Now here's the interesting thing. Does this look like it's in his control or out of his control? A clear divide between his concentration levels, which seem to be a higher average altogether, but a distinct spacing, a buffer between his stress levels and his concentration. They're not tied together. Concentration for Charlie, he's a good brain, right? He focuses around 66 on average at any one time, but his stress level's around 50%. Now his alpha is not so great, 2.3, and alpha, if you guys know, for education, academics, learning, the higher your alpha, the more integrated and associative your brain becomes, because then you can associate emotion with information and you learn things quicker. Memory improves. If you shift all the way to the end, he's relaxed his prefrontal cortex. There's the proof. Concentration has risen from 66 to 75 and almost 10 points after a minute and a half exercise. Can you imagine in a minute and a half you can get 10% more out of your brain? Alpha is now a whopping 3.6. It's increased by over 40%. So in that state, he is most capable of learning and retaining information and processing emotion. Now the cool thing about this is that you don't have to walk around all day doing this, right? I gotta increase my focus. Do you have to go to the gym all day to make sure your muscles are working? To make sure your muscles are growing? This is a muscle. And just like any muscle, it has a skill. And you train it over a specific amount of time, and that skill and strength transfers to the rest of your life. This is a muscle. But what happens when you stop training your muscle? You lose it. Absolutely. So there's definitely physiological functions from doing these exercises. But you'll understand that this is only a doorway, and brain education is about finding meaning in your life, not just improving your function. Like, we want you to get back to who you really are. That's where we become more spiritual, philosophical, and meaningful. I'm not just here to make you better human beings. I'm here to make you better humans so that you can be better for everyone else.